Hello everyone and welcome to What's New in D2L. We recently had an update to version 10.7.0. We came from version 10.6.3, so there's a lot of versions in between, so there's a few important updates that I want to go over with you all. For those of you that are curious as to how to make a PowerPoint into a video, this might be a good example for you. I'm using Office Mix and recording the slides slide by slide and then publishing it to a video. So I hope you enjoy. Alright, on our agenda today, we have some minor updates. There's some announcements, assignments, awards, browsers, etc. to go over. But some of the bigger updates are going to be in discussions, grades, the HTML editor, and there's a new quiz creation tool. I'm saving the best for last there. Alright, for our announcements, this is a minor change. You can now insert a link to an announcement actually inside content or somewhere else. So it's not really a change to announcements per se, it's a change that you can link to those announcements. So this is helpful if you typed up instructions for an assignment in an announcement and you just want to reference your students to look at that announcement and review it before they complete that assignment. Assignments has a small change here also. You can now get a notification to any email that's preferred whenever someone submits an assignment. So that might help with keeping up with grading and stuff like that. You can get instantly notified whenever something's uploaded. Awards. I know not many of you use awards, but it's just a way to kind of gamify your class a little bit. For those of you that do use awards, you can now share any awards you've created with others. Alright, there are some browsers that are no longer supported. Microsoft Internet Explorer 10 is not supported, and for those Apple users out there, Safari 6, 7, and 8 are no longer supported. I recommend using Chrome. That's what I've always used, never had an issue. Firefox is also great. But there's a link there. You can see the complete list of supported browsers and other statistics on what's supported for D2L. Alright, here's a change that makes a lot of sense. Class progress versus user progress. Anywhere that you see class progress, it's going to be, if you go into your course admin and you want to see how the class is doing, it's going to be called class progress. But once you click on an individual student, it's now called user progress. So that makes sense. Alright, discussions. There's a few different things changing with discussions. One thing is all of the details of your restrictions are going to be listed there right under the discussion name. And you can also filter by unread or flagged or unapproved, just to make it easier to sort through your discussions and read them. There still is that little trick out there where it doesn't recognize that you've clicked on something and read it. You have to click the little drop down arrow here and say mark all posts as read for it to pick up that you've read them. For group discussions, there's a new way to set it up, which seems more logical. There's still a ways to go, but it is better. First what you do is you set up your groups, and then when you go into discussions to create a new topic, you have a new option. You can make it group specific or open to everyone, but once you choose one topic type, you can't go back and change it. You'd have to delete and redo, so just be aware of that. And you still can create group discussions the old way inside of the group setup tab, but doing it this way I think helps out with making there only be one grade item in the grade book. So that can really clean things up for you. You can also copy these groups into your next class. You can copy how the grade item and all that is set up if you're going to use this semester after semester. And this doesn't change anything for learners. They can only see, the posts or discussions that are associated with their group. All right, and grades. If you like to export your grades to Excel, there's now some additional information you can export, such as section membership and group membership. Also in the grades, dropped grades are now easier to see. They're marked by an exclamation mark beside dropped items in your gradebook. And by the way, any of those little symbols you see in D2L, you can put your mouse over it and it will tell you what it means. So there's some additional markings to say and show that these items have been dropped. If you are on the summary pages and see the little bar graph at the top, I'll show you that in just a second. Dropped grades do not appear in that because they're not going to be included in the student's final grade. So here, if you see, this is that bar graph I was just talking about. If a student's grade is dropped, such as this one with an exclamation mark, that one's not going to appear up here in the grade progress bar graph. Another good change that's coming here is that the percentage weight of the final grade shows up for students when they're looking, or you're looking in the course progress or the user progress tab. So that's a good way for students to be able to keep up with how they're doing in class, and it just makes it a lot easier for them to understand their grades. Another new thing we have is grade exemptions. So say a student misses an exam or a quiz for circumstances out of their control, but you don't want to just give them a 0 for the exam. You could exempt them from that grade item. Exemptions, of course, affect how grad's calculated. That grade item wouldn't be calculated into their final grade. You couldn't exempt a student from a final grade, of course. If you export your grades into Excel, like we discussed earlier, an exempted grade will just say the word exempted in the spreadsheet. And exempted grades will be a happy color in the grade book. They're not going to show up red like it's a failed grade. It's going to show up as a good green or blue. If you want to make an exception, an exemption, you can go to grade an item and then just check the student's name and click exempt. If say you click the wrong student, you can do the same process and just click unexempt. Just make sure you save those changes so that they're applied. Oh, this is a great update in the HTML editor. You can now copy and paste things from Word and keep the formatting. And it's not going to throw any errors like it used to. You can keep the formatting. It might change it a little bit. One thing I did discover is that you can't copy and paste an image from Word, but you can still use that insert an image button to put an image in. Additionally, the math editor has been updated, so this helps a lot of you math folks out there. Whenever you're writing an equation, it will now show up so you can see what it looks like as the students would view the question. So that's a great update for you guys, I know. And quizzing. You can now allow specific users to have multiple attempts on a quiz. So say they have special accommodations and you want to give them 2 tries on a quiz. You could go into the special access area and give them multiple attempts. Alright, and the best that I saved for last here is the new quizzing experience. This is only going to affect how you make a question. It's not going to affect anything the learners or students see at this time, but it's a good preview of what D2L is going towards in the future. In the next maybe year, our interface will look more like this all around. So this is a nice preview, so please let me know what you think about it. We have only updated a few of the question types. So multiple choice, true, false, short answer, and long answer will all have this new look and feel when you go to create a question. I have a little example of a short answer here. So it's just, what are my animals' names? And Yippee, my dog, could be misspelled. It's an easy name to misspell. So is my cat, Jimmy. So I could put in both options there. And I just type in one option, press enter, and type in the next. And it's really simple and easy to use. I love it. It also gives you a preview there to the right side of what the question will look like for students. They can even ABC check their answers for short answer questions. So I'm going to go over each type here in a moment, but some things to know is you can always save and copy a question if you're making up a big test or something like that, and you have questions that are similar. You can use the save and copy option. If you titled your questions in the past, the title field is gone, but you can always add a short description to make that the title of your question. If you don't use titles, it's just going to use the first few words of the question. So it's nothing too big to worry about there. And if you don't like this new experience, you can opt out for now till we update in the far future to this new system, but there's a little drop down arrow I'll show you in a moment that you can use to opt out. Alright, to go into the new quizzing tool, let's say I want to add a few questions to quiz 1. So I'm going to edit and then just add some questions. First, I'm going to do a true-false question. So this is what it looks like. So my true-false question is going to be, Louis Braille, creator of the Braille system of writing for the blind, was himself blind. Is that true or false? Well, hopefully you guys will learn something today. It's actually true. So you see how it shows up to the right side of the screen here, and so that's how the students will view the question, and it's just so simple and easy to use. Just click what the correct answer is, add your points. If you want to give this question a title, you could go to more options here and add a short description. That would give it a title. You can add feedback such as, yes, Louis Braille was actually an inventor and all that. So, and he himself was blind. So I'm going to save this question. There's also options to do save and new or save and copy. I'm going to do save and new actually, because I'm going to make another question. I don't want to be true or false though. Let's do a multiple choice. Okay, so multiple choice, same style here. Actually, these options are okay. It looks like I selected some options previously and it kept those from last time I made a question. So I'm going to remove these. So this is the basic view that you would see unless you had already selected some options here. So my question is, how many hearts does an octopus have? What do you guys think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? This one's a little tricky. It's actually 3 hearts. But let's say you wanted to give credit, partial credit or something like that, for 1 heart. You could type in, like, that's 50% there would give them half a point. So you can still add the custom weights. You can move these for reorder them. You can randomize it for each student, so it will reorder each time for each student. And I'm just going to save and new again. We already went over a fill in the blank question in that little example. Oops, excuse me, not a fill in the blank question. Fill in the blank question is still the old method here. So it doesn't, this new method looks so much better. It's just so much cleaner and easier to navigate to me. Multi-select is still in the old version as well, but long answers have been updated. And same system, and additionally you can still bold pieces and you know, format it any way you'd like here. Additionally, for this type of question, a long answer, if a student's trying to write an essay or something like that, you can enable the HTML editor for them. So if you watch the right side of the screen here, if you enable that, it goes back to the old method of how they type in questions, but this way they can insert things or bold, italicize their text if they need to, and also spell check. I think spell check also works here, even if the HTML editor isn't enabled. So keep that in mind if you want your students to be able to, you know, bold or add some formatting to their work. One thing I didn't mention is when you first open the quizzing tool, say you make your first multiple choice question for the first time, this is going to pop up. Welcome to the new question creation experience. So you can choose to leave it on, turn it off, or just hide it for a little while. This little caret or arrow, you can hide it, and when you decide, okay, I like it, you can open it back up and say leave it on. But if you decide you don't want to use this yet, you can turn it off. It is going to ask you a reason so that, you know, they can get some feedback as to why you don't like it, and, you know, they ask for any improvements that you feel, you know, would make you like this tool better. So that's my quick little overview. I hope you enjoy, and I really appreciate any feedback you have about this new tool and how you like it. So hope you guys have a good day. Thanks.